when I got up to her room, it was just absolutely one. When I got to the hospital, no one ever asked me to put on a mask. No one ever handed me a mask. No one told me a mask was required. They just walked me up to her room. When I got up there, it was absolutely guttural. It was weeping like I've never wept before in my life.
I bet.
And oh man, it's about 15 minutes of that. Then her doctor came in and said some really nice things about her. And I thanked him because she could have died 5.5 years ago when she was in with congestive heart failure and pulmonary hypertension when that was diagnosed. And I said, thank you for the last 5.5 years, because we got to do some amazing things over the last 5.5 years. We've done some really cool road trips as a family. In December, we took basically the month of December off and went to Australia for over 3 weeks. Got this Airbnb right on the Indian Ocean. Fell asleep listening to the waves. My brother lives in Western Australia, and it was absolutely amazing. It was just an absolutely glorious trip, and those are memories that the boys and I will have for the rest of our lives. Christmas morning, waking up, body surfing, and going and opening presents, and then going back out to the beach. I'm a huge fan of summer Christmas. A huge fan of summer Christmas.
Oh yeah, I heard Australia is the best place. That's like their summer, right? Christmas time.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's cool.
It was unbelievable.
You've gone through this gauntlet. You've come to this end of it, and now I assume that there is a reaction that begins to build up inside you towards hospital. Whoever's making these decisions to allow, they let you walk right in without a mask. At the very point where you need it at least, right? I mean, you would have given anything for it 10 minutes before that, even, So what kind of starts flooding in to your head and heart and just use from that point?
So on the walk out of the hospital, after I picked up her stuff, and the chaplain escorted us out. On that ground floor, gentlemen, more than half the doctors, nurses, and staff, janitors, were not wearing masks. To which the next morning is when that really hit me. Because if this was really, I try not to take a position on masks and the response, but if this was really that serious, why were these doctors, nurses, and janitors not wearing masks on that ground floor?
Yeah, so serious. You're separating a husband and children from their mother.
Yes.
On her deathbed. But the masks are optional?
I had plan. If it was one screened visitor per patient per day, I had a plan where one day I was going to go, one day my mother-in-law was going to go, one day Matthew, our oldest, was going to go, then Caleb, and then one of Elizabeth's friends, then I was going to go. So that way she was getting different people that were just rubbing her feet, holding her hand, laying next to her, hanging out with her, those kinds of things. And so the next, I was numb, completely and totally numb that first week.
I bet, yeah.
And in such pain. In fact, the 5 weeks after she died, I lost 20 plus pounds.
And you're a skinny guy.
I'm a lean dude. I'm a lean dude. And it was all
Lanky.
muscle.
I see most humans as skinny because you've seen me. It's all relative
in comparison.
Yeah. And so anyway, I started to do some media appearances. I started to do some interviews, and this idea of we need to have legislation and protections in place to allow, no matter the pandemic, to allow one screen visitor per patient per day. We need to have national stockpiles of personal protective equipment. We need to be working with, we need better planning, because if the head of infectious disease called my mother-in-law and her had a conversation, and my mother-in-law said, what was the reason you didn't let us in? Well, we didn't have enough PPE for visitors as well as doctors. Well, why didn't you let us in? Because we had the PPE. Well, yeah, that wasn't an option. Which, I mean, the circular logic that I've run into on this is appalling. AARP did a study that equated loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And if that's the case, my wife smoked 315 in the 21 days that she was there at University of Colorado Hospital, Anschutz campus in Aurora. She smoked 315 cigarettes of loneliness, and that did not help the situation. I will go to my grave believing that had we been allowed in, even a week in, she wouldn't have gone into ICU. She wouldn't have had the bleeding in her lungs. She wouldn't have, and ultimately what took her out was a clot hit her lung, a pulmonary embolism. That's really what took her out. And, and she showed a lot of significant, the autopsy showed a lot of significant, decline in organs. So that 21 days that she was there alone was significantly a detriment to her health, even though she made the best of it, even though she did what she could. And we talked multiple times a day on FaceTime. But FaceTime doesn't cut that personal rubbing feet, holding hands, speaking life, those kinds of things.
I mean, simply to have your family taken away from you and just to go sit in a room with a TV in it and some people who bring you bad food now and then, and you weren't sick and you weren't on your deathbed. You just suddenly your life is switched to that for was it 2 or 3 weeks or however long it was. That would be a shock to somebody's system that would send them into a depression. I mean, just that, because to lose that human contact and connection to your loved ones, would be a form of torture.